So it's not in a funny sense. Like I gave a manifesto in Copenhagen at CPH Docs in 2009, and that was a true manifesto where I said, this is the shit that has to be done, and this is the shit that has to change. I'm not giving that kind of communist manifesto today. So even though I love manifestos, and I was a Marxist way back when and loved the Communist Manifesto, et cetera, but you know, times change. So here's some things that I think are still, these are some points that I felt were especially relevant still to today. So I went through that manifesto, and there's some things that I would change. So there's 10 points on that manifesto, of course, but I only took out the 4. So know your film, know yourself. Every film is different. And I think that's one of the things that data speaks to, and this is truer than ever. And even though there's now some tradition of distribution and marketing leading back towards a way of one size fits all, there's certain companies that are just buy things and put them up on their platforms, and that's all that happens, and that's definitely a one size fits all. There's still, for many films I find, still for, I would say 90% of films, that they have to find some unique path for their film to get out there, even if part of their path is being bought by a platform, right? So to change your attitude toward marketing, that's pretty intense and kind of like obnoxious way to say something like that, but it still holds true. Like I always, and I do marketing, and I kind of never wanted to get into advertising. Like I avoided doing music videos for the longest time because I thought they were commercial and et cetera. But you know, marketing is a way to reach your audience, and that's just a way to think about it. And marketing is a way to find the audience that already exists for your film. So if you want to connect with an audience, it all kind of falls under marketing. And I would say, I would add to this, change your attitude maybe towards data and advertising as part of a specific aspect of marketing, because that's really important these days in order to reach audiences with the way that platforms have shifted, social media platforms. Basically the whole notion of building up an organic audience and then using that organic audience to, you know, help you with the release doesn't really work unless you pay, unless you use advertising. So that's part of why we're going to talk about this. Determine your audiences, how to reach them, very still true. I don't think you need to as much do it from its inception, because advertising lets you do it a little bit later. You can just jump in with advertising later. You don't have to worry about it too much from inception. It's still good to figure out who your audiences are from inception, but I think connecting with them for most one-off films too early can be problematic. And then when you finish your film, you're half done. Still absolutely true. Sorry to tell you, I'm sure you've now heard this already. If you haven't heard it, hello. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but how many people have heard this? Once you finish your film, you're half done with your film. Yeah, okay, good. All right, word has seeped. All right, so data, what's the problem and the opportunity? So opportunities, access to audiences. Problems are respect for privacy, but most of you, when you've signed on to your phone and agreed to the terms and conditions, you've given away a lot of your privacy rights. Most of the acceptance of those things that you never read, you're giving away gobs of privacy, frankly. So if you don't want to engage in that system, which I know a lot of people don't want to do, you don't have to engage it. Unfortunately, if you want to engage in that system, you unfortunately have to give away lots of your privacy. One of the things I'm not going to talk about is what's happened in Europe and now California, GDPR, which is how governments are reacting to this and putting further controls to try to ensure consumer privacy. So these things will change and be things that you have to think about, but I'm not going to have time for that in these 25 minutes. Abuse of data, obviously, and I said I'm not going to talk about that, increasing monopolies. I'm not going to talk about it so much, except for that essentially, what happened with data and me is I did this large project that I'm going to use as a case study for the last 6 months, and we did a deep dive into advertising and data. I'm going to show you some of the results. And what I found is that, and then when I did a presentation for Getting Real, I started interviewing, same thing I did for Think Outside the Box Office. Instead of just going off my experience, I started interviewing advertisers, people in the field, data, people who are involved in data on a day-to-day basis. And one of the things I found from one of the companies that does this all the time for some very prominent independent film companies is that Facebook, there's a lot of data tools that are very expensive for filmmakers or any individuals to buy. Like they start costing like $100,000 a month, and that's what brands use to scrape data. But Facebook is basically watching all those and is eating everything that they see out there and incorporating them into their platform. And you can start doing this for $10 a day, starting at $10 a day. You eventually have to spend more to get further results, but it's a lot more accessible in a sense. And that's the disadvantage of Facebook because they are a monopoly, but it's also the advantage of Facebook in that they're giving tools to you that you can use pretty readily. It's probably a little arcane for you as a filmmaker to use, but you can bring people on your team who can use it. And part of this whole presentation and why I'm on this kick now is to introduce filmmakers to this and introduce them to the language of this so that you're kind of familiar when you start talking to people about this. All right, so increasing regulations we talked about in terms of GDPR and the California rules, and those are just going to spread. So you're going to have to eventually conform your websites to deal with this. All right, how can filmmakers use it? So obviously success is based on goals. The thing I'm at the IFP lab now as well, and with my clients, it's constantly, what is your goal? What is your goal? What is your goal? And so what you can do is understanding your goal helps you determine what your strategy and tactics are, and then you need to learn how to measure your results. And I know this has been going on in the impact world for quite a while, and we're not really going to get into that aspect of measuring today. That's been kind of talked about a lot, it's, again, with 25 minutes. But we are going to talk about measuring results and what kind of results you want to look at. And then one of the things I want to really harp on is sharing data with the community, and I'm going to refer this, is how can filmmakers share data, and there's been a number of attempts, Sundance tried it, et cetera, and this is when I was talking to people in this world, especially in the film world, is that there's so many things that our community doesn't know about what we do. And we don't know the results. We don't know how films are performing. Part of it is, and when I do case studies, I understand it because when I talk to filmmakers and try to get their data, it takes me months to extract the data from people because everyone's super busy making their films and releasing the films. It's like we struggle with getting things done all the time. There's so much work we have to do. And then we don't know, we haven't set up a system how to collect our data and how to put it in one place so that when I talk to filmmakers to do case studies, they have to dig through things all over the place, and it's really a lot of work. And so somehow as a community, and this is a long-term thing, we have to figure out a way to solve this to help ourselves do better and to reach audiences better, I feel. So what are you measuring? So how many people know the term ROI? Oh, good. I'm going to move on. Return on investment. Okay, great. So then ROI, to measure ROI, you need to know how many people know what a KPI is, key performance. Okay, so it drops. Okay, so that's a key performance indicator, which is data that indicates whether you're achieving your return on investment. And basically, different kinds of goals will result in different kinds of ROI and KPIs that you need. So for instance, if it's financial returns, it's going to be income and net income, and that's pretty easy, and you guys are pretty familiar with that concept. If it's fame, career, what are going to be the measurements, KPIs for that? Is it how many, obviously, getting your next gig, obviously, is a strong KPI, but what are the things that lead to that? Like, how can you measure that? How can you measure, obviously, how many meetings you're getting, how many relevant meetings you're getting, but also, how is the media reaching people? So can you measure, like if you get reviews, how many reviews you get and what is the reach of those reviews? Obviously there's Rotten Tomatoes, and so you have a little 98%, but how do you tell if that's actually reaching people? And there is ways to tell that. There are places that collect data on how many people read reviews. There's a way to calculate it. Brands do this, and it's something and I'm just gonna pass on this one piece of advice and move on, is to ask your publicists if they measure earned media. And if they don't, will they do that for you, please? Because most publicists will subscribe to services that will give you this reach, and that's something for your next film. If your reviews, you can say, my reviews reach 2 million people, these positive reviews, that's a piece of data that you can add to your decks, et cetera, for future projects. Okay, moving on. Audience awareness, then that would be impressions, views, attendance, reach. Reach being one of the big kind of numbers that is actually, to be perfectly honest, it's a little bit of a dubious number that you get from the reporting of advertising, but it is, it's something that this is one advantage that you have of big brands pummeling Facebook, is that big brands need to be accurate in the data that they receive, so they keep, on some level, Facebook honest as to what the data is that's been reported. So a couple years ago, there was a thing about how many video views and whether video views were accurate from Facebook, and then Facebook had to correct their algorithm to make that match. So, okay, so impact, which is similar to awareness, but did you actually affect change? And so how are you going to measure that? It's not just with reach, but did you have petitions signed? Did you have legislation changed, et cetera? And then long-term audience development, this is where you get into the concept of owned audience. Is anyone familiar with that? Okay, I'm just trying to see how many advertisers are actually in here. Okay, so, what?
It's like a mini MBA class.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're getting as a 20-minute MBA class here, like 1 year of marketing MBA all in 20 minutes. Okay, so for the people who have taken MBAs, here we are. So what is a sales funnel? How many people know what a sales funnel is? Okay, a few. So a sales funnel basically is that, I'm gonna actually skip through. This is the kind of funnel you wanna look at, I think. This is a bow tie funnel, which is new from, I had to cut down my slides. The general sales funnel from MBA is you start off here and you funnel down, and so this is awareness out here, and then you get, I'm not actually talking into the microphone, sorry, so awareness out here, and then down into conversion, et cetera, and that's essentially all people cared about, was getting down to conversion. But now, this is super important these days, because people buy things because they read reviews, hear about them from their friends. You really need to go out to this advocacy and try to push this advocacy, and we'll talk about a couple ways to try to do that. Okay, so now that you have a sense of the sales funnel that starts at awareness, then goes to prospects, or what some people would call leads. These are people, so awareness is just the people you're reaching, like with your content. So the people who view your trailer, or the results that say how many people has this ad reached, or how many people has your video reached. That's just people becoming aware of it. And that's something you want to try to do during your festival campaign, your festival launch. Through that, that's where you're trying to generate awareness, get it on the map in some way. And hopefully be driving people to potentially your website. And the reason I say your website is because that's one thing, and we don't have too much time to get into this, but that's something that you can track with what's called the Facebook pixel. And one of the things that you need to be doing social media through, if you guys are doing social media and you're hiring a social media person, your social media person has to be doing it through Facebook Business Manager, because then they can take what's called the pixel, put it on your website, possibly on Eventbrite, and then you can track the effectiveness of any kind of advertising or boosting that you do, because then you can actually see who went from your ad to your website, and you can actually track the actual actions, and you can see if those people signed up for your email list. So, all right, so those people, if they signed up for your email list, they would definitely be prospects. And then you have to deal with converting them. So those are conversions. And then you want to turn those conversions into advocates. So, all right, so then there's 4 different kinds of media that you're going to be dealing with. Am I already blowing gaskets? Going too fast? Okay, fine. So I just heard a sigh, and this is just review for you, right? You've done this a zillion times before.
I'm so interested in the particulars.
Okay, yeah, so you're waiting for the case study, right? Okay, so these are probably new concepts to you. So owned media is the stuff that you own. It's your film, it's the trailer, it's any content that you create from your film, it's any graphics, it's any extra content, et cetera. And this is super important, and you need this. Shared media is basically, people used to refer to social media networks and your followers on a social media network as part of your owned audience and your owned network, but no, it's a shared, because they actually control it. So owned media, that's why websites are so important. A website is part of your own media, but any other platform is shared. Also shared audiences are your audiences with organizations. So anything that your organizations put out for you, that's shared media. Paid media, so if you only have paid media, you're going to, even if you have a lot of shared media, if you have a lot of people sharing things for you, you still want to engage with paid media because that's a way that you can really target new and specific audiences. And then the last one, and I'll go back to this, is earned media, and that's why I was talking about reviews, people engaging with your content, comments, likes, et cetera, is all earned media. That's essentially things that your media earns from being out there in the world. So it's probably pretty self-explanatory, and they all kind of interrelate in some way. So you have, there's crossovers between earned and shared and paid and owned, so that if you do paid media, you know, that what you might do is take a review and then make an ad out of it, all right? And that can be more effective than another piece of content or just a graphical ad, because what it's doing is it's showing relevance and authenticity and positive support from someone who's valued to a new audience, all right? Okay, so media from the perspective of ROI. So what will be most possible? You have to think about when you're creating your strategy, what's going to be most possible with your film? How many resources do you have? What kind of resources do you have? Do you have connections to organizations, shared media? Do you have connections to organizations that have large social media followings? Do you have connections to organizations that will do email blasts to help grow your email list? Can you create extra content, and what kind of extra content can you create? And one of the things that in the interviews that I did with some advertisers, it's actually, you don't have to worry about, we did this on this one project, but you don't have to worry about going out and creating massive gobs of new content. What you can do is take your film, and obviously you have a trailer, but then when you're creating your trailer, have the trailer company do a 30-second ad and a 15-second ad. And you can use those, and you might even have them do a couple of different ones for different audiences. And those are going to be more effective for Facebook ads than the entire trailer. The other thing you can do is, and this is very common practice now, is to take your film and just cut different clips. Don't just rely on your trailer. Create little short 30-second to minute clips of other pieces of content in your film that will directly apply to a specific audience. So you might have one audience, and so you're creating several pieces of content for that one audience. But you might also have 3 audiences, and you want to think about what content that you do for each of those different audiences and what's going to appeal to each of those different audiences. And one of the things you should do before you really launch into your campaign, and things that you can do, is to then A/B test that content through Business Manager and see which is performing better with that audience. And it'll tell you right away. It's like the result, you have many different kinds of results to track, and it's a pretty in-depth tool. All right. If you don't have earned or shared media, like if you don't have any organizational support, you don't have any reviews, which does happen, you're going to have to pay more. You know, you're going to have to be creative and get your own content out there more. All right, so now I'm going to go into the case study, and this is where, if you can zoom in, just because I don't want the data being recorded and going on YouTube. Oh, you're on me the whole time. Oh my God. Okay. Well, that's what? That's the way it should be. Okay. So I worked on this film called The Gate, The Dawn of the Baha'i. It's about the origins of the Baha'i faith. It's basically a historical educational documentary. It's done by Bob Hercules, who did the Maya Angelou, Still I Rise. And the whole idea that the religion kind of promotes the oneness of mankind, equality of men and women, et cetera, social justice. And so I was engaged to create awareness. That's what the whole campaign was, is to create awareness about this faith that hardly anyone knows about, but is actually, you know, there's 6 million people around the world. So although not that many in the United States. So what did we do? So we created a website, which falls under owned media. We engaged our own email list, and in a very trackable way, which is our own media, and we worked on building that on that email list. Oh yeah, so the first goal was to create awareness. The second goal is, because it was a multi-film project, we really set out to create an owned audience on an email list that could carry project to project, as well as a shared audience on social media. So that was one of the goals, not just to create awareness, but to build an audience that we had a direct relationship with. So We ended up creating a lot of extra content because we did some early audience surveys, and they felt that the film didn't really talk about like why this is relevant today. So what we decided to do is engage a transmedia campaign to do a lot of extra interviews that we cut into content and share on social media as to why it's relevant today. So, which was quite fun, and it was great getting it out there. And we had, it's really nice putting a piece of content out, new piece of content through business. And you can get like 50,000, 70,000, 100,000 views if you use the platforms properly. Launched social channels, so that's shared least media, organizations, and we're still working on organizations, getting them to do email blasts to their local groups, and that's shared media, and then we did advertising paid media. So first I'm going to talk about content marketing. So this is our own media to earn media, and we did it via Facebook. So we created approximately, I think somewhere, I haven't counted them all, 30 to 60 pieces of very short video content. The total reach just on the video content itself was 2.4 million people with 175,000 full video views. This is actually just through advertising, not through social media. The social media numbers actually double. The reach in social media jumps to 12 million. This is all through Facebook. This is all only Facebook. We very early discovered that our audience was on Facebook. Our Twitter, like we started with 0 in April, and we're up to 10,000 followers now. Facebook, on Twitter, I think we're at 267. Like, it just doesn't exist in Twitter. And Instagram, it's just different audiences are in different places. Like, if you have a political film, it's gonna live on Diet. It's gonna be on Twitter and Facebook. You're gonna be in both. And then we didn't know that, then we started Instagram a little later, but then have grown, not to our Facebook numbers. And you can also advertise, obviously, on Instagram, just as you can advertise on Facebook, just as you're used to seeing these ads on your Instagram feed and are annoyed by them, but hopefully not annoyed because they're supposed to target you specifically. Wondering how effective that is. And then, so yes, this is all Facebook. So this is paid. So, but it wasn't, so I'll get to that. Basically, overall, we spent about $30,000 in advertising, and we basically earned, because you can track how much money you earn from Facebook, we basically earned that money back. So this is all excess, in a sense, because this is all, because we earn the money back. If you're doing ads to sell, obviously, generally you want to, with a $30,000 ad spend, you want to earn $50,000. You want to earn $60,000, right? But because we're going for awareness, we're happy to earn our ad money back. Like, we didn't blow our ad money and not get it back. We got our ad money back, plus we did, we did this reach. And then we had 45,000 in earned media, which are the likes, shares, comments, et cetera. Any kind of, and Facebook will give you that data. You can see it, like when it, how many people like and how many people comment, but they'll track and add all that up for you. So this is an example from 1 week and 2 videos. So this, it's a motion graphic and a video. So 32,000 video views, 95,000 reach, 7,000 minutes viewed, 12 comments, 3. This is what the back end of, I'm giving you a snapshot of the back end of Facebook. And a limit, it can go on and on. You can choose whatever metrics you want. So normally for us, this goes on about 12 more columns of the different kind of data, but I just decided to show you this. Like, shares, post engagement. This is a post that we boosted for $30. The organic reach is 1,800 and the paid reach is 94,000. So of the total reach, you can see, you probably are aware that Facebook throttles your connection to your audience. How many people have, like, if you don't pay Facebook to engage your audience, you can't engage your audience anymore. How many people have experienced that? Oh, I thought there'd be more people who have experienced that. They're a business, and they want you to pay them to reach your audience. That's the big bait and switch that they did, but that's what all tech platforms do, is offer something for free and then make you pay for it. So, and that's, how they make money. The thing with Facebook, the one, and I hate to be here saying, oh, Facebook is good and allows you to, because Facebook does a lot of things that aren't so good as we know, and this is going on YouTube, so I want to be careful, but it does give tools to artists to reach your audience. So with just a little boost, you're reaching a lot more people than you would have done. And don't do boosts just in your page. That's, as one advertiser said, that's basically, it's a consumer product. Think of if they get 1 million people around to pay $30 to boost their kids' videos or whatever, or or artists to boost whatever. That's even underestimate. There's 3 billion people on Facebook, so you have 1 million people boosting something just for $30. That's $30 million of cash for them. But you're not really able to track what that's doing. And that's why, again, get into Facebook Business Manager, which is complicated, but it's going to give you much better results and much better trackability. So the partner video, and that's just the motion graphic reach. So the partner video, 41,000 video views, 164,000 reach, and then as you can see, the organic reach, 4,600, paid reach, 160,000. So it's just the comparison, and this is in September when we already had 8,000 followers. So we actually had we have a very engaged audience. So we have a very engaged audience, 8,000 followers, and still it's relatively throttled, and you're not getting beyond your own audience. And what you want to do is get beyond the audience that you quote unquote own or share with Facebook. Okay. So review marketing. This is really important. And what's my time? No, but what time is it? 10:32. So I'm over already. Okay, so how much more time do I have? Like 2 minutes? Okay, so I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna skip through the next, okay, sorry. So we keep track of all the nice comments on social, okay? And we DM these people, and we ask them to post these. We ask them if we can use them then in our advertising. So then we create quotes from our people that like it, and we make little cards and ads from those quotes. But we're also now DMing them, offering them a copy of the soundtrack if they post a review on Amazon, iTunes, or IMDb, because that is really important. And basically, every additional review up to 20 is an exponential effect on sales. You want to get to 20 reviews on Amazon. And then if you can get more, that's great. But it's like exponential up to, it's literally like this, up to 20 through this Yale Business School study. So you really want to get, because people go to a film and look at the reviews, and if there's one review that's a 3 or 1, it's not going to motivate them. But if they see 20 4s and 5s, and actually, even if there's 20 4s and 5s and a couple of 1s, then they'll feel it's more authentic, because everyone knows that some people hate stuff. So you actually want to have some 1s and 2s in there to make it feel real. Okay, so yeah, I already talked about this earlier. Wow, paid ads. God, I gotta stop. So, all right, so I have an email list that's floating around somewhere. I don't know if it's stopped. I'm gonna be writing about this, and as part of and sending it out to my email list over the next few months. So I'm sorry I have to stop. Okay, so let me go to wrapping it up. Ugh, sorry. Actually, the results were pretty. We had 22 million impressions with a 10 million reach, which is pretty good, and like 500,000 minutes of video content. Okay, wow. All right, this is the last thing I want to finish on. Filmmakers need to start tracking their data, if not only for your own purposes, but also to help share with the community. Funders need to funders and nonprofits, I'll just get to the straight point. We need to have like a community of people within independent film and documentary to come together and figure out how to help filmmakers do this, and then how to collect that data. And it's not happening right now, unfortunately. So the stuff that I'm whizzing through here should be stuff that's given to that you guys are aware of, and there's a source for this. And what I've realized is that no one's talking about this in our world right now. So anyway, I'm starting to talk about it. Brian Newman talks about it. I'm going to start talking about it. Thank you very much.